Hey, everybody. Happy May. Welcome to our quarterly Facebook Live. We had some glitches last time here, so we are going to see if this works. If not, maybe we'll go over to YouTube. But, anyways, hopefully we're live. Hopefully this is working. Hopefully y'all can see me. Yeah, I'm thrilled to be with you guys. Over the last few months, have received some emails with questions. They're very similar, some of them, so I've kind of consolidated what people have been curious about. But as always, if you guys want to put comments or questions in the chat, I'll do my best to see if I can actually read them in real time while I'm with you. Um, and if you guys don't have any questions now, I'll go ahead and answer the ones that people have emailed to me. And as always, this video will be available for replay on the Art of Singing page on Facebook and also on YouTube. So if you're not here with us now, you can always be with us after the fact. So yeah, if you don't have questions, I'll go ahead and get started. But as always, please don't hesitate to put your questions or comments, thoughts in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. So, one of the first big topics that came up for a lot of people in their emails, and again, we didn't get a chance to connect on February, so I've received a number of emails over the last couple quarters, is what is the best way to learn music? And actually, a couple of these questions I responded to in articles. So, if you go to my website, findingyourvoice.com, and click on articles, you'll be able to find my full views on some of these topics, including this one: what's the best way to learn music? And I received 4 emails, it looks like here, about this specific topic, um, and my answers in each case were kind of the same. I find that regardless of genre, when it comes to learning music, it tends to be, of course, everything's a generalization, but it tends to be ideal, if not even optimal, to really go for an aural approach rather than to read music as a way of getting familiar with a piece of music. Um, I find it best to listen first, and we have to be really mindful about to whom and how we listen to a song when we engage with it because of muscle memory and a phenomenon we call demo lock. It can be really common to, when listening to a singer, even without a video, take on his or her habits, positive and negative. So if someone has a really nasal voice or a lot of tension, we unwittingly can take that on in our muscular engagement just by virtue of having listened to that person sing that particular piece over and over again. So if you want to learn a piece of music, trying to find a singer who you or others find to be very tension free. I also think listening to a singer of a different gender is really helpful. So if I'm going to learn a song, I'll go for like a Frank Sinatra or a Michael Bublé, for example, or someone who is of the opposite sex, a very different voice type, and someone who I imagine to be very tension free. The gender piece, I think, is interesting because while we are working in some ways to imitate that person, there are certain physiological constraints to imitating someone of the opposite gender. So we're less inclined to lock in on habits, physical habits and vocal habits, musical habits, which then makes it easier to create our own relationship with the song, physical, emotional, musical, and therefore to be more personally and fully self-expressed when we're singing it. So now, why do I think it's best to learn a piece by listening rather than by sight reading? And again, I think it's really important to sight read. I think it's a great skill. The more tools you have in your toolkit, the better. But I think that for most people, again, I'm qualifying here, for most people, myself included, even after all these years, seeing a visual representation of notes on a page, which necessarily the way that we write music has an up and down phenomenon, and also a very specific note phenomenon. Notes is very small, incremental things. Both of those things together tends to make me, if not consciously, kind of subconsciously, Think of notes as going up and down, high and low, narrowing in, trying to hit them, narrowing in to hit those notes as opposed to expanding out to each um, vibratory phenomenon, which is what a note actually is. So I can overcome that and get around it if I have to. But I find that when I'm first engaging with a song, it really is better to sort of put the sheet music aside. Oh, another thing that happens, of course, too, is I have ideas about which notes are challenging for me in my chest voice or my head register. And so if I see that note, even if I've been singing the song before and I go, oh my gosh, that's a C natural or a D flat, that has an impact too. So once you've learned a song, once you're comfortable with it, once you've created a relationship with it, I think then it's great if you need or want to reference the sheet music to sort of confirm, or as one of my clients said the other day, she really loves to visualize the percussive nature, the rhythmic nature of the song, the instrumentation in contrast to the vocal line. She loves that visual piece. Um, Using it as a reference once you have muscle memory locked in can be phenomenal. Some people always have a bit of trouble going to sight reading, um, because it does, even if they have a good relationship with the notes and an expansive notion of pitch and engagement and support, it still kind of brings back that narrow that narrowing. Um, so try it on for yourself. As always, everyone's different. I have some singers and some colleagues, people I've worked with who love to sight read, no problem at all. Um, if you're one of those people or you'd like to be able to sight read and avoid these challenges, something else you can do is to read it in the staff of a lower staff. So for me, rather than on the soprano clef, I might read a man's vocal line, and a staff on the staff below. That can be helpful too. So those are my thoughts about some helpful tips, possibly for learning music. Again, I wrote an article. I think it's called, what is it called? Sing Before You Sight Read. It's on my website, so findingyourvoice.com. And if you click on articles, it'll be there. So that was the first question. Um, and as always, if you have other questions about that, I can get to them during our next Q&A or in an email. Never hesitate to send me a note. So the next question I had, or series of questions, I got 3 emails about this. This is such a popular topic for all of us singers. It's about pitch. Um, how do you optimize your pitch? How do you keep from going flat? Was one person's. How do you really become aware of your pitch while singing? This woman was sharing that she has trouble in real time kind of knowing how on or off she is, but in hindsight listens back and goes, oh my gosh, I'm sharp or I'm flat. So there's a bit of a correlation actually between pitch and the learning music piece, as I mentioned. But I find that pitch, one mistake that many of us make as singers is to think of pitch again in a very narrow way. That we want to hit a C or a D or an E or whatever notes we want to hit. We often think of needing to tonally hone in on and hit that note. And of course, in one way we do. We want to achieve the note. We don't want to go all over the place. But in reality, the nature of our vocal instrument, the vocal folds, right, housed in our larynx, are vibrating more or less faster and slower for higher and lower notes, respectively. Um, and they're vibrating hundreds of cycles per second. So this is not something that we can physiologically, in sort of a hands-on manhandling way, achieve. We can't sort of go, I want to get a little brighter in that note here. Um, so doing that, not only in the throat, it causes some tension, but also our breath begins to hold. Our whole approach just becomes very narrow, physically, musically, emotionally. So what I encourage people to do when it comes to pitch is to rely much more heavily on the one tool that I think is ideal for learning and mastering pitch, which is our ear. Um, in brief, to explain how pitch is achieved, we hear a note and our bodies and our minds conspire through a bazillion, bazillion, a technical term, countless messages, countless signals the sound that we want to create, and the body and the breath engage and create that sound, essentially with the throat and where the voice is housed being in a more passive state. The folds are vibrating, but we're not creating or confirming pitches here in our throat. So to really start to rely on the ear, but as importantly, to practice listening as a function of pitch achievement is critical. Now, what do I mean by that? Going back to a song that we might want to learn and we can listen to. If you were to play a song you want to listen to with a singer that you like who's tension free singing it, and you just really concentrate on listening to the tone of her voice or his voice and the pitches that he or she is hitting, and allow your ear, not your judgment, just allow your ear to really take that in. Take that in, really process the pitches, the melody of what's being sung. And then in silence, turn off the tape, turn off the YouTube video, whatever. In silence, to then allow yourself to hear back in your mind's eye, in your imagination, in your memory, to hear back that melody. Now, this might sound, with me saying it, like a very simple thing. Okay, play the song back in your head. And that's part of it. But it's also to really allow yourself to holistically, as much as possible, experience the song and the pitch of the song, and of course the musical context of the song in your mind's eye. That kind of reflection and observation and frankly engaging with a song, it teaches your body, it even teaches your muscles that are not perhaps engaging fully in the creation of those pitches while you're remembering. But it is priming your body, it is priming yourself. It's priming everything you need to sing through the non-passive act of listening, really listening and remembering the pitch. Then when you engage, when you go ahead to sing the song or sing certain pitches or certain exercises, whatever it is you want to sing that you're concerned about with pitch, to allow yourself to, again, relying on the ear and the support, taking the pressure, pun intended, off of the throat as the place where pitch happens, to really concentrate on the pitch you want to hear, begin to sing, and allow yourself to just observe with your ear what's happening. So if I were to sing E, right, I'm singing that note, and let's just pretend that I'm concerned that it might be pitchy. What we might do normally is go E. We want to kind of make sure it's right in our throat. You can hear the tone change. But if we relax and release that, E, and I'm aware of the pitch in my ear, and I'm concentrating on it, and as I step back, my body is engaging it properly. I can hear I'm on pitch, but there's no tension in my throat. There's no pressure. There's no discomfort. And even though I'm very aware that I am locked into the pitch I want to achieve, there is, for me at least, a feeling of expansiveness and enlargement, and a more sort of landscape panoramic view of that pitch. And as a result, my body is relaxing in the ways it needs to relax and engaging in the empowered ways it needs to engage in order to optimally hit that note. So those are my off-the-cuff thoughts about pitch. Thank you for your questions, ladies and gentlemen. And like the learning music piece, I did recently write a piece about pitch. And that's also on my website, findingyourvoice.com, under articles. And that one is, I wrote a series of 3 pieces on common issues in singing and teaching of singing, phrasing, pitch, and preferences in learning. So it'll be under that. I think it's preferences in learning, pitch. So go ahead and take a look at that, and I hope that's helpful. And something that you find useful. And as always, please don't hesitate to reach out. Let me know what you think. And again, if there's any follow-up questions, feel free to put them in the chat if you're live, or to comment on a post or send me an email, which you can do on my website too, and I'll try to do my best to address them next time. So the last, I got a bunch of emails from you guys, but the last kind of big chunked topic, I get a bunch of questions on this one. And so again, I've consolidated, in this case, 5 emails down to one question for the sake of time. This one's about the best way to exercise. What's the best way to warm up? What exercises should I be doing? What are the right exercises? How often? How many? And, I think, let me preface this by saying, like I do everything, this is my opinion based on my own personal vocal preferences, my work with singers and speakers. I am a big believer in that it's really the how, not the what. So it's not so much um, that we do exercises or which exercises we do or how often we do them or, if it's morning and night, et cetera, et cetera. I'm really a big believer in it's how we do the exercises or whatever it is we're using to warm up our voice. It's the attention we give to the vocal engagements. It's the process by which we practice and work. So for example, if you're running through every day da 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 da, you can do that really well. You can do it with a lot of tension. So again, it's the attention we bring to it. Another thing I would say, well, let me also say, regardless of what material you like to use, how you go about choosing the best way for you, the tools you use to warm up and practice. I think, of course, the voice is an instrument. It is a largely muscular system, and so frequency is so critical. Using your voice often is so important. It's funny, I'll have singers say to me, well, I practice 3 times a day, which is great, of course, but I find that when I'm gearing up for a gig or if I have a speaking engagement, I'll literally find myself sometimes unaware singing or speaking, not all day, but often. I'm just using my voice. I'm moving my voice. I'm letting it move in different ways. I'm consciously using my voice, and even without realizing it, I'm singing as I'm cleaning the dishes. I'm just literally allowing my voice to be moving and warming up in a sense, gearing up days before, even a week before, and that makes the transition to the performance or presentation so effortless and so seamless. And it also, frankly, makes the experience of singing for me a very integrated one. It's not like I'm Jennifer and then I go warm up, and then I'm Jennifer and then I warm up again, and then I do whatever Jennifer does and then warm up again. It really is an integrated part of me, of Jennifer. And so, if I'm singing, humming or singing, or just kind of, sometimes I'll take, if I'm working on a certain song that's giving me trouble, I'll notice that I'm going for a walk and just working, these 3 or 4 lines over and over again, just trying to find some ease and play in there in that piece. And oftentimes I won't even know I'm doing it till I walk by someone and they're like, "Oh, I like what you're singing," and I'll say, "I didn't know I was singing." So, we are our instruments, and hopefully for those of us who sing, and that's all of us, we're all singers. We all have these voices. Hopefully, the more you can bring a sense of camaraderie, compassion, um, and relationship with your voice as not something you pick up and set aside, but that you use ongoingly, something that travels with you. I think the more powerful your performances will be, and more pleasurable for you and for your audience, because we can all tell when someone is speaking from the heart. Is a cliche because it's true. And so I think the more integrated your practice can be, the better. Going back to a thought I had before I interrupted myself, one thing that I think it's important to point out, and a lot of singers, I think, find this to be the case, but feel like it's not acceptable or something they should do, or they feel like it's not really exercising, and that is to use songs to exercise. Songs are all so different. You have songs that are very legato or very smooth. You have very percussive songs. You have songs that jump up and down octaves in the choruses consistently. You have songs that work in a really sweet, gentle part of the range. And so picking songs, first and foremost, that you love and enjoy singing, because the act of singing itself, if it's tension-free, is a wonderful practice. But if you don't love the running of the scales, or you find, as I often do for myself and with singers, that running scales gets that sort of left brain part of us, that intellect kicked in, and that self-critic kicked in of, am I doing the scales right? Am I running the exercises right? If singing songs seems like it's a more attractive option for you, find songs that work on issues you have. If you have trouble going between your chest and your head voice, you can pick songs that move up and down between your chest and your head. And I can't think of a song off the top of my head, of course, so I made that up. Find songs that play. I know one. This is actually good just for jumping all over the place. But Katy Perry's Firework. Don't even know the key it's in, but tonight's the night, let it shine just on the night like the 4th of July is, baby. It moves all over. It moves from chest to head and all around. So singing that, one, you have the benefit of having learned the song, most of us, from her. She's got a really powerful voice, and so we have this great muscle memory from having heard her sing the song so many times. But we're also playing, and we're playing with a song that's full of emotion, full of passion, which usually helps to lock in a more full support than sometimes we use if we're running scales, when we tend to pull off of our energy as we're watching to see if we're doing it well. So I hope that answers all of your questions about that. The best ways to exercise, of course, it's, again, big caveat, it's so personal. Everyone is so different, and the most important thing is to discover what works best for you, what feels best to you, and of course, what gives you the best results, right? Because that's what we're really in for, looking out for, is results and pleasure. If you have the best voice in the world, but you're miserable and you hate it, that's not success, right? So you want to find the result, the vocal result, but also the personal result of joy and enjoyment of the process, not just the performance and result. So those were your questions this quarter and before, and thank you for your patience again. I know that February we had some technical difficulties. Hopefully this is working. Not being very tech savvy, I will only find out when I end this. And yeah, I think we have these quarterly now, so July, August, our next one will be in August. But never hesitate to reach out if you have questions. We have master classes online now with COVID every couple of months. We have one this month. Singers and speakers, come join us. Email me, let me know if you have questions. I'm always here and always available, and really this is a passion of mine, so I'm always happy to help in any way that I can. So thanks for being with me. Again, if you weren't here live with us, this video will be available on YouTube and Facebook. And I wish you all the best, and looking forward to seeing you guys soon. Take care.